Welcome back to another episode of the Club Cultivate podcast. I am always excited for all of our guests. I feel like I say that a lot, but very excited for today's guest. This is someone that I have watched online do lots of cool different things, and so I'm excited to dive into conversation. Taylor, thank you for joining us. We're excited to have Taylor Fort join us. Taylor, can you share a little bit about who you are and what you're up to?
Sure. Well, first off, thanks for the invite. I really enjoy the opportunity. I always enjoy doing these podcasts and kind of getting to visit with people. I know you and I kind of have similar paths in terms of interests and things like that. And so I don't always get to slow down enough to like catch up with people and understand like, well, what are they up to or what's interesting to them and things. So that's always really, really, really nice to do in these podcasts and stuff. What am I up to? So for those of you who maybe don't know, I am a full-time photographer, videographer. I specialize mostly in show pigs and online sales. I also am a full-time broadcaster of livestock shows too. So we get to do a lot of the Texas major stock shows there in the spring, and even in the fall we do the State Fair of Texas as well. And so kind of a little bit of a different hat that I get to wear a lot of times. And kind of my most recent venture has been starting an online sales platform. So similar to how you see some of these other platforms that you sell your livestock on, whether that's online sales or that's live sales with bidding online or on your phone while the sale's going on. We get to do all that. So it's kind of cool that I'm able to tie all of those into one kind of business, and they kind of all feed off each other. So that's a little bit about me.
I want to go back in time, not to date anyone or make anyone, feel old, but let's go back to the beginning. How did you find your way into this creative space?
Well, I'll go back since we have a little bit of time, it seems. So, when I first went to school, it was a while back, 2011, I guess, is when I went to school. I went to junior college at Redlands and did some livestock judging out there. And I always knew our family always grew up raising show pigs. And so I was very, very much involved with that. I don't think photo, video, or any of that stuff was ever in my aspirations at that point. I was planning on coming back to the farm and helping at the farm and running a show pig operation. And I realized pretty early on, you have to understand, back then it was in 2011, print media was like a big thing still. And so I was seeing like that in web design, and I was seeing how much money we were having to spend on web design updates and ads, paper, magazine ads and stuff like this, print and stuff. And it was just kind of like blew my mind a bit. I'm like, man, it seems like I need to go learn how to do that. I mean, I know how to raise show pigs and stuff like this. So I mean, I'm not going to learn much about that in college. And so I thought, well, how can I help the business advance or whatever? And so that was the obvious thing to me, and it was interesting as well. And so I decided to go major in agricultural communications. I left Redlands and went to Texas Tech and went to the communications program there. And like I said, I was really there. Those of you who don't know much about ag communications, it's almost 80% writing, it seems. And it seems from the girls that have worked for me, interns and such, that it's still pretty writing focused, which kind of blows my mind a little bit. And we can get into that later. So it was all this writing. I was very blessed and lucky that I was really, really always pretty good at writing, and it didn't take me much effort. All the writing stuff was incredibly boring to me, and I just was there for like Adobe. Like it's all I wanted to learn was all things Adobe. And so I was interested obviously in our Photoshop and InDesign classes, and then even our video production was interesting to me. Something that never was interesting at all to me was photography. Never, not even a little bit. I mean, I had a camera, obviously. I would shoot all our own baby pigs and stuff like that. But oh God, if you'd asked me in 2015 if I'd be a full-time photographer in 10 years, I would have told you there's no chance, zero chance whatsoever. So I had the course, I had the photography courses and stuff, and I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it at all. And I think it's because it was just very broad, and it was something boring. Now, I'm not going to try to tell you that the most exciting thing to shoot in the world is a baby pig. I think anyone who's ever done that, or anyone who's been on the receiving end or the pan pulling side of that, would say that's not an enjoyable experience at all. But as far as going to school and learning photography, I learned the basics. That's pretty easy. I think you can learn those on a YouTube video very quickly. You don't necessarily need to go to school for it. But I didn't enjoy it at all. I didn't enjoy our professor. I didn't enjoy anything about it. I left there and it was an 8 a.m. class too, and I was just like, one more thing why I didn't enjoy it. And so to say that I would be a photographer later is totally crazy. But I did enjoy video. Back then they didn't have video cameras very, like, really very good at all. They were kind of like these action flip cams. Some like grandma or grandpa would shoot at the birthday parties or stuff. They had those. They had some DSLRs, but not anything incredibly good. And they didn't have any good microphone systems or anything like that. They would teach you all this stuff, but it was like all this stuff seemed out of reach. They would talk about stabilizers for your camera so that the video is stable, or only shoot on tripods. Don't ever shoot handheld. Don't zoom, because your hands aren't going to be steady enough to do it. It turns out that's not true anymore because the software, the hardware has gotten so good. So there's a lot of innovations there. It was really, really exciting when some of that stuff come online. But I know when I was in video production class, the school didn't even have a stabilizer or a gimbal of any sort, and they weren't interested in getting one because they were like prohibitive in terms of like the investment you'd have to put up front, and then also probably the professors don't know how to use them anyways. So what's the point? And so, but I was still very interested in video. So I graduated in 2015 from Texas Tech with an agricultural communications degree and set back out to the hog farm to be a pig farmer who knows how to run Adobe products, make your own print ads and things like this, and manage and host your own website and stuff like this. And so that was the skill set that I took away from it. And I really enjoyed that. That was very, very helpful. Obviously, it saves a lot of money. You don't have to pay for advertising or ad designs, and you can make it exactly how you want it, and as many revisions and things that you want to do is totally up to you. So May of 2015, I came back home and started back on the hog farm, and I did that for 5 years. And in this 5 years, we eventually started having a lot of frequent number of online sales every fall. And in the spring, for marketing our show pigs. And so we would have one every single week for like 8 to 12 weeks in a row. So we wouldn't put a ton of numbers online, but maybe 20, 25 head or something. But it's every single week. And so anyone who's ever shot baby pigs understands, oh, that's a huge pain to do. So I got a lot of practice there, understanding how to, get these baby pigs to behave a bit and do what you want them to do. And I can't say we were great at it to start, and it took a lot of effort and learning and failed R&D, I guess, to try to finally get some understanding on how to do a good job of taking photos. And when I first came back in 2015, nobody was shooting videos of baby pigs. It just wasn't a thing. And then I saw Win More Farms, Ron and them, they started shooting videos of every single pig and putting them online. And when I saw them do that, I was just like, oh no, here we go. So knew very quickly, I was like, well, I don't want to be on the tail end of this. I want to learn very quickly, like how to get videos and quality videos. Cause once you start putting video out there, I knew immediately that like, that's going to be a standard moving forward. So anyways, in this 5 year period there, after I got out of college, I learned how to do some of that stuff. Not nearly as good as I am now, of course, but I got a lot of experience doing those things, among other things, obviously running the hog farm and sales and things like this. And learning how to like have employees that you work that maybe are the same age as you, or maybe they're a little older than you, which can be a little bit weird at times. So I got to navigate all that stuff, and that was all very, very like a very good learning experience for me. Of course, 2020 rolls around, COVID happens, and then our farm, we had to kind of reduce our herd size quite a bit, and we just didn't have enough numbers and volume and stuff like that to merit me there full time, plus my family and stuff like that too. So after we sold the sows down a little bit, I had to go figure out something else to do, and the only thing I knew what to do was to I knew how to take photos of baby pigs and videos of baby pigs and kind of market them on social media a little bit before a sale and try to get a little hype or whatever for an online sale. That's what I knew. I've been doing this for so many years, and it was kind of crazy to me. I couldn't believe that I was able to talk people into allowing me to come to your place, shoot your baby pigs for your photos, your videos or whatever, and then you pay me money. That itself was like kind of crazy because everyone just did it themselves. Like almost nobody hired anybody to do this at the time. And then on top of that, like I was able to do it and make enough, earn enough to make like a small living starting out in 2020 in the middle of the pandemic. And, I was flying all over that. I mean, the pandemic flying was awesome. Other than the mask, it was great because there was nobody in the airports. There's nobody, there's no lines. The tickets were cheap. And it turns out during COVID, since you can't have live pig sales during COVID, everybody needed a photographer to take photos and videos. So kind of catch lightning in a bottle, and sometimes things work out just perfectly, and the timing works out perfectly. And that was kind of a case of that right there. And so that's kind of how I kicked off the photography side, photo video side of my business. There was COVID. Bad timing turned into good timing.
I didn't realize that. I guess sharing that timeline makes me realize like it really hasn't been that long since we have really dove into high quality photography and adding video, which I know people still complain about having to video every single pig, thanks to our cattle people that decided to do that with everything. What do you think shifted the market to say like, hey, we really need this? Was it other industries, or was it just like people were ready to, you know, price of everything's gone up? What do you think was that flip?
I think it's multifaceted. Okay, so I do think, like you kind of mentioned, like I mean, they've been videoing cattle forever when they're selling these cattle, and that's nice. And when we were raising show pigs, we'd have a photo of these pigs, a good photo with good lighting and stuff like that. And the first and only question you ever get is, "Do you got a video of this one? Do you have a video of this one?" And I think the industry demanded it a little bit in that way from the consumer side. They'd seen all me. The truth is, any livestock, if you can get them set up from the side, they're going to look pretty decent. They're probably going to look their best. That's the reason we do it, honestly. And so to be able to tell like how this animal walks or whatever, or you're not getting a full story just with the photo. And I think everybody agrees to that and understands that. You can't hide in a video. If an animal is a certain way, there's not a lot you can do. I mean, I shoot more number of videos probably, I would say, than maybe anybody else in show livestock as far as online sales go. All species, I would say. I mean, we do over 1,000 baby pigs a year, so that's a lot of videos. And you know, you need that complete picture. So I think the consumer was demanding it. I think the industries from other species had kind of played over a bit, and like, well, if they can do that in cattle or in sheep or goats or whatever, then why can't we do it in pigs? And so I think that was part of it. And then the other side is too, during COVID and those few years coming out of COVID, people weren't traveling as much. They weren't able to go to pigs. They weren't able to go to people's farms as much. And so either you don't show pigs because of the restrictions, which I know a lot of people did, but for a lot of us, that's not any kind of a lifestyle. So we all decided we'd have to get around it. And so I think the video, like that was really important because you weren't able always to go look at people's pigs in person. And it kind of opened up a bit bigger community as far as online sales go, where, if you lived in Indiana, during the springtime, you can just go around anywhere. I mean, there's literally a pig farm every 3 to 5 miles in the state of Indiana. So you could go anywhere in a weekend and just still not hit all the spots you wanted to hit. Well, when you're not able to travel, well, what can you do? So you sit around at home, and if you have videos of these pigs and these online sales, you flip around through these videos and decide if you like this one or that one or whatever, and you kind of make your buying decisions based off such. And so I think those kind of like I think all those for all those reasons is why we had to shoot baby pig videos or livestock videos in general, is because of that. But also social media evolved right through there. I mean, it really did. I remember when I was in college in 2013, 14, 15 era, I remember boar studs would post photos of just their boars, and it would just have like the name, the sire, or whatever, and it was just a photo, and it wasn't necessarily some graphic, which was really popular, distracting graphic, let's be honest. And it wasn't that; it was just a clean, simple photo. I was like, wow, that's awesome. And I thought, man, that's the clean way to market. You have fast forward, 5 years or whatever. Well, a photo doesn't do a lot for you, just a standalone anymore. So it was obvious to me it had to move towards video, and I knew in school that video was eventually going to be kind of the way we go forward and stuff. When I was in college, there were not a lot of YouTube videos with tutorials of how to learn this and that. It was still funny cat videos or music videos and things like this. So it wasn't what the YouTube is that we know today, or even the internet that we know today. Obviously, everything now, video is number one media consumed, period. It's not even close. And obviously that's why we're doing a video podcast instead of audio only, because video matters. But I think all those reasons kind of brought everything together, and it was a natural evolution. And I think obviously, like I said, the COVID stuff prompted a bit. Other industries or other, ag industries, being, cattle, sheep, goats, whatever, I think we all kind of come to the center together.
2 questions from there. One, do you think there's ever a time that we don't take photos and just do video? And then B, do you think that it's necessary to have individual lot videos, or do you think that previews suffice where you record and share that?
Okay. Um, Question number one, will we ever get rid of photos or not have the need for photos? Yeah, in one condition, and I'm gonna say it's highly unlikely, when everyone has a ton of time on their hands and they have a ton of focus and they're not getting distracted. Because I've looked at this a bunch because I would prefer not to take photos. I'd rather just take videos. It's way quicker. It's way easier for me. The turnaround time on a video, a group of videos is actually easier when you're bulk editing those videos and stuff. To me, is a little bit easier, at least in my workflow, for sell videos. The problem that you have is, and that I've tried to solve and I've not done, is that you look at these videos. So say you have 50 pigs or 50 animals, whatever. It doesn't matter what species that you're looking at here. And you're wanting to decide which pigs or which animals or whatever you're interested in. If you have a photo, let's be honest, you have like a quick gauge, a quick read of, oh, am I interested in this? It's a yes or no question. Is this animal interesting to me or is it not? And that's really, in my opinion, all the photo really should do at this point, if you do have videos, because the video is going to tell you everything you need to know. You look at the photo and you see interest, is that animal interesting me in any kind of way? And then you click the video. You don't ever find yourself just going through the videos and watching every single video. So if you take away the photo, now you got to watch at least the first 3 to 5 seconds of every single video. That's a huge time sink. You think of how many online sales there are in any given night, how many pigs are selling. I mean, there's times when there'll be, pig, for example. I keep saying pigs because that's what I'm specializing in. But it is not hard to have 500 pigs sold online or offered online in a single night. That's not hard at all during the busy times of the year. You're gonna watch 500. It's impossible. But you might be able to scan through all the photos or whatever and just see if there's something that piques your interest or not. So in short, no, I don't think there's ever a situation right now in which we totally go straight to video, because I don't think video is quite quick. You can't consume it quick enough to move on to the next one and understand what you like. Now there may be some opportunities in the future, so I'm not totally ruling that out. But as it sits right now, I think it's going to have to take some development before that becomes a situation where we're not doing photos. And then the second part of your question was, is it important can you get away with just a cell preview, or is it important to have videos of individualized videos of every single lot? I think it depends on, in my opinion, to me, it depends on the goals. If you are trying to have low inputs and get animals sold and not have like all this cost and stuff like this, because it is a balance, a dance you do as a breeder, what's worth it, what's not worth it. I think a preview can be fine. It's certainly better than nothing. It is a way lower cost situation than hiring someone to come and shoot videos of every single animal that you have. The truth is, if you can get those animals to perform for you while you're shooting the video, you're gonna get a way better return, in my opinion, on that investment that you have of shooting the videos versus the investment you have of just a live preview, where you don't always they don't always behave correctly. They don't always get the best view. Even in some of the live streaming we do, where I have these girls that work for me that are very, very good. They run these cameras and they're able to move them around and it's stable and it looks great. You're still at the mercy of if the animal acts correct, and poses and looks good and all the things come together. I will say this, in a live preview, people are way more forgiving than they are in a video. If you have a video that you've actually shot, they're going to pick it apart very, very quickly, the best they can. And then if it's a live preview or something like this, they're going to give a little bit more leniency. So those are the things that I see. I do both, obviously, photos and videos. So I hope neither one of them go away. But as far as a result that I like the best in the end, it's going to be videos of every lot.
You mentioned how there was, you saw this need to come back home and do some of these marketing communications type things. So you saw that problem and tried to, fill that gap. What was the gap that you saw with live streaming? And maybe you can take that a step further with now wanting to do it. Like, I guess you can stay with that lane, but I think you do live streaming differently than others. So talk us through how, where did you see the problem in that industry and try to fill that gap?
Okay. So I'll let anyone who knows me knows I'm a super nerd. I'm way nerdier once you get to know me than if you just see me, I promise. And I may look pretty nerdy if you see me. So I really enjoy deep diving and learning kind of how things work. And this is going to be really, really nerdy. So this one would probably be something you can clip out. But I used to play a game competitively called Clash of Clans, very competitively. I know that's like super nerdy and whatever, but I don't care. It was enjoyable for me. And so as I explained this to you, in this game, there's the company that is owns the game or whatever, and they would do live streams of these wars, if you will. Okay. And it's good for them. It's video content, it's live production, so it's promoting their own game to their own demographic of people. And then they would do their own like in-house live streams where they invite like these very elite gamers. I was never invited, of course, but these elite gamers to come over and have like you see esports, big tournaments and things like this. That was interesting to me, not from the, oh, I want to be a pro gamer, a streamer, a pro gamer. That was never interesting to me, but I was just interested in how live streaming works. Because then you have other YouTubers and things like this that were also doing their own Twitch streams or live streams and stuff like this. And, I was interested in the how it's done, how it works. So that's how I got into it, was through gaming. I was into playing Clash of Clans. In that, I learned all about live streaming. Not everything I need to know, but I knew enough to kind of like walk myself through it a little bit. And so I was always interested in that. That was always like in the back of my head. I never thought that, oh, you can apply this to livestock. It wasn't in my head really. I did always wonder when I watched a live stream. The thing for me when I was helping at the farm as a breeder during January, February, March, I could never get away from the farm in Oklahoma to go down to these Texas stock shows because we're in the middle of farrowing, we're in the middle of pig sale season. We got all this stuff going on. And then, my family was showing pigs too. My little brother would be showing pigs for OIE and stuff. So you just really can't hardly break away to get down to these shows. And you really need to, so that you can develop relationships and stuff with some of these show families and such. And I was never able to get to understand or was never able to break away to really get to go down there. The problem that I always had that was in the back of my mind is, you'd have these families that would keep you updated and they'd send you photos or they'd send you videos and, the videos were horrible and the quality was horrible. It's not like it is today. And so you didn't really tell. Those were the photos and the videos were the videos, but you think, is this, so they'd be very happy with their animal and be very glad and thinking, man, we've got a chance. We think this one's good. But you never know what that means. So is this so if so and so this has been a really good family or a great ag teacher or something that's had lots of success in the past with pigs from us, you don't know if when they say they really like this pig and they think this one's got a shot to do well, does that mean they can go make the sale? Can they win a class? Are they a division winner? Are they potentially a breed championship? Could they win it all? Or are they fifth in class and barely make the sale? You don't know. And of course, you don't know until the show happens. A million things can change, but you just don't know. Based off a photo and video, you still don't know unless you're going to go down there and look at them the week before or watch them at the show, which there is the problem for me in my particular situation was I can't break away. I was too busy. And so I was looking at these live streams and, you watch these live streams and you'd always have to ask who the person is and what color shirt they're wearing. I know a lot of these showmen, they've been showing you for us for years. I know what they look like, but in the live stream, it's not clear. It wasn't clear enough to understand, oh, that's so-and-so. And I can clearly identify them. You literally had to ask what color shirt are they wearing and understand, because you can tell in these live streams that there's a stock show going on. But after that, it's kind of hard to tell. It was kind of very challenging to tell what's what, which one, if you had one that was, reserve division or something, why wasn't it champion? It's hard for you to know. Or was it even good enough to be a reserve champion? Did you get a favor? I don't know. You never really know. It's just really, it was always really hard. And so that was always a bit frustrating to me. And so as the timeline goes, I started my business there in 2020, that first year. Shot only photos and videos, traveling around, did lots of traveling around. And that year was the year they were shutting all the shows down in early 21, for COVID restrictions and things like this. They had just shut down Denver. And I think when we got that, it was like August or September when we figured that out. And all these shows were just one right after another closing after everyone had bought their animals and pigs and stuff like this. And so that was frustrating. So Tim Ford is my dad, and we were visiting about all these shutdowns because my twin sisters are still showing too back in the day in Texas, and we're like, what do you do? And so we had this crazy idea. We should just start like a show, because the problem with these major shows is that they're confined by committee members and kind of corporate bureaucracy a bit, and just because this particular city allows you to be out and about doesn't mean that stock show will also have a stock show, because there's liability and stuff there. And I understand why some of those stock shows are like, the risk wasn't worth it for them. And so we decided, we're just going to have a stock show for people to bring their pigs to. And January 17th or 15th, I can't remember. It was about the same time as Denver. We had it in Wichita Falls, Texas. It's called the Texas National Stock Show. And now, that went from about 350 pigs the first year. And then now this last year we had 1,018 pigs showed, not counting entries. That's just ones that walk through the ring, not counting showmanship. It's just actual, you know, bears and gilts shown. And so it's grown really big. But as I go back to when we were laying this out and starting the stock show, we were trying to understand like, well, if you're going to have a stock show and COVID, of course you need to have a live stream. So we had one of the companies bid that does live streaming bid what it was going to cost, and I won't say what it cost, but even by today's standards, it was too high in my opinion. And so we are sitting there talking like, what are we going to do? We're not going to swing that. We got to have it live stream. So what do we do? And I just told him, I said, if you will give me a little bit of time, I said, I think I can figure this out. And I said, I think I can figure this out because I already had the wheels turning anyways. I think I can make this even better. I said, so I was visiting with him. I was like, why can't there be a better production? They do this. The NFL does it all the time. You know, they have these end zone shots and the players are over there dancing and they're super fuzzy backgrounds and it looks great and like what like and then I was like, well, let's look inward even more. Let's look towards rodeo has a great production. If you watch any rodeo, it's it's a really good production, fine-tuned it. And if you've ever been on the backside of that, it's scripted to the minute, I mean to the second almost, what's happening, when it's happening and stuff. And so I'm like, why can't we do something more? Me being 1 year into business, not quite one full year into business, really one fall into business because I started in August. So it's still, September, October, November when we're planning all this show. I was like, why can't I take my camera and the gimbal that I've been using to stabilize it and figure out how to wirelessly get that signal, that video feed back to the computer? I'm like, that would be awesome, right? Because then you can literally get over there and you can see every animal as they're coming in and how everything about them and stuff. And I was techie enough and nerdy enough to do all the research, understand, to make sure that not just getting the video feed back to the computer and onto the internet, but also how do you do that in a very high level of clarity and stuff. And so I did a lot of research on that and a lot of, honestly, trial and error, just in my on my office, just sitting here with a PC and a camera and a gimbal and seeing if I can make it work, or how do I get the all the clarity. So like lots of just R&D and lots and lots and lots of YouTube videos. So I took all that, I said, okay, we're gonna do it. If it flops, it flops, but not very often do you get to have your first try and there really can't be much repercussion because you're also running the show. So it was kind of a sweet deal for me. And so we did it. And my little brother Ori, he helped me. He ran the camera and I ran the computer, and then we'd switch off a little bit, and it was like a huge hit. Like everyone loved it. Everyone at the show loved it. It was kind of cool. We actually had a big video wall over there that we were live streaming it to as well. So people could watch the show right there. They could watch it on their phones, and they could watch it over there at the bar where the big Jumbotron was. And it was just like this big hit. And it was a big hit online too. And so, honestly, before the show was over, I'd already kind of booked another show. I did Coba right after that. Before the Texas National was even over, just a month later, I did that. And then these guys running these pig sales started calling and saying, hey, do you think you could do something like a preview or something with this for our pig sales? And so then, boom, I was doing that for pig sales and stuff. And this whole thing just like became something very, very quickly. And so that's kind of a long answer of how I got into live streaming with my nerdiness and gaming and interests and things like that, and a trillion YouTube videos watched and just figuring it out.
Is that something that you go to often? Like, if there's a problem, you're just going to figure it out, like research it as much as possible?
I love a problem. I love to go learn and research. I've researched stuff that's not even problems a lot, just because, oh, that's interesting. I mean, there's a million things I could tell you that I've never done myself, but I'm pretty sure I could do right now, just because, oh, it piqued my interest one time. And I love doing deep dives on all kinds of stuff. And so, yeah, I love YouTube. That's it. I just really love YouTube.
Well, I was just going to ask, is that where you've learned everything, or have you done anything else like in an educational space, or learning way to grow within this space?
So, I went to school, like I said, at Texas Tech and graduated with agricultural communications. I learned, I don't want to sound too derogatory here, but I learned enough to understand the language and the lingo or whatever, so that I could learn from YouTube videos. To tell you that I learned a tremendous amount about photography, videography, or honestly anything Adobe while I was at school, I don't think you can, because like I said, the focus and that curriculum is mostly writing with some visual creative stuff scattered through there. I learned enough just because I was nerdy enough and I wanted to learn, that I could then apply some of that stuff to the YouTube video. I could at least understand what they're talking about, and then learned almost all that stuff was self-taught through YouTube videos and stuff like that. And I enjoy it that way because, the great thing about YouTube is if you have, no matter what kind of learning style you have, there's a YouTube on there that fits your exact, this is my guy, this is exactly, I think like they think, whatever. And so that's the great thing, in my opinion, about YouTube. If you want just straight, super dense packed information, there's that. If you want personality scattered through there, there's that. There's everything you need to, if you're interested, there's no reason in not learning other than, you're just not that interested.
Do you think you would have done school differently knowing what you know now? Or what is your recommendation for younger people wanting to be in this space, which is broad, right? But what do you tell people?
Okay, so kind of biting the hand that feeds me with this statement. I have a really, really, really good internship program that all these girls get to help me down at San Antonio and Austin and State Fair of Texas and all these shows. And then, some of them travel with me everywhere shooting photos and videos and baby pig previews. And some of them work for the sales business and stuff like this. And I really, really cherish that because it's very, very hard to find help, period, and good help at that of people who are interested and want to, on their spring break, go work at a stock show or whatever it is. That's not easy to find. Now, having said that, I think unless you have letters coming after your name, you should not go to college unless your parents have all the money and it's never any financial stress whatsoever, or you have so much scholarship money coming that it would be ridiculous for you not to. That's my perspective. I think you can learn everything you need to learn from the internet for way cheaper, whether that's YouTube or they have different courses and stuff you can take online to learn literally anything. My older sister is a medical doctor, and I remember in school, while I was in school, she was watching brain surgeries on YouTube. Now, it doesn't make her qualified to do a brain surgery by any means. I'm not saying that's why I'm saying if you have to have letters after your name, you need to go to school and you need those certifications and understanding and qualifications, I guess. But you don't need you don't need a qualification one to run a camera. You don't need a qualification to learn how to do web design or how to do anything in Adobe. You don't need those things. You don't have to pay for those. You shouldn't pay for those unless, like I said, you meet, in my opinion, if you meet those parameters of, it's not going to financially set you back. Because my opinion is if you think that going to college and then getting your degree and coming out on the other side, hoping to pay off this student loan without some substantial help ahead of time, that's a way to not, in my opinion, have a very unenjoyable life for the rest of your life, because there's it's very hard to overcome a lot of that stuff. And you don't necessarily have to, like I said, if you're not going to be a doctor or a lawyer or, whatever it is, then I think you can learn everything else you need to online. And I don't think the industry is required as much anymore. So then maybe the follow-up question is like, well, what about these people who say you need experience or you need your bachelor's degree or this or that to get a job? I'm sure there are still companies out there that require that. In the next 10 years, they won't. In the next 5 years, I don't think they really will. They're going to be looking at, are you a yes or are you a no? And this is what I do when I hire people. Are you a yes or are you a no? Are you a can or a cannot? That's all I care about. I don't care if you have any experience. The two girls who's worked for me the longest never had picked up a camera before they met me, period. They were not AgCom. They're incredibly, incredibly great. And I can count on if I need them to get something done, whether they know how to do it or not, they're going to figure it out and do it. And they're not going to complain about things. They're not going to tell me how much they know or anything like that. And they're incredibly good. Now, that doesn't mean that people who are in the AgCom field or photo video stuff don't do very well also. I'm just saying, as a business owner, my particular experience, your experience in the creative field is completely irrelevant to me. It's more of the experience you have as an employee or a worker, or whether or not you're going to put your name on everything that you do. If you want to fail going 100 miles an hour, I'm never going to be upset at you. We can learn how to fix that so that doesn't happen in the future. And if you do fail and it does mean something to you, you won't ever fail like that again. I can promise. People don't. They really care. They make sure that never happens. They may fail a different way and learn that lesson, but they won't make sure that those things never happen again because it's important to them. And those are the kind of people, for me, as a business owner, that I'm interested in.
What about the business side? I don't know that. I think there's a lot of people that have, like, we want to say a left or a right brain. You've run this business and have several different entities, people. I also remember one time, I think when we actually did get to meet in person, you said something about pricing, and I forget, it was several years ago. But I think you've always been pretty, I think pricing is a touchy subject. And I remember you being very confident about it and saying, like, this is a business that needs to be ran a certain way. So I guess, where are you getting your business experience, knowledge? Like, how are you running your creative job as a professional business?
Yeah, so I think kind of what you're touching on here is there's two sides of there's the creative side and there's the business side, and they're not always, you always hear about the I don't remember how the saying goes, but like the artist that's broke or whatever, or the business owner that, or whatever. The opposite side of that is actually how you make money. You see a lot of these photographers that are really talented but never make it work, that never make it that business transition to where they can make it a full-time situation, which by the way isn't easy to do, and it is scary. If you want to be a photographer and you think, how am I going to make this work and have enough money and all this other stuff, that's a challenge. That's a really scary thing. And my advice to you people that are wanting to do it yourself is don't have a plan B. You just got to make it work. If you have to make it work, you will make it work. You'll make it work. That's all there is to it. And when COVID hit and I started my own business, the only thing I knew how to do was take photos of baby pigs, and somehow I made it work, and things worked out for me. Now it's very different. Back then, people, there was no one out there that I know of shooting baby pig photos and videos full time and making like a small living off of it. I mean, there were people who did it occasionally or whatever for sure, but there's no one traveling around the country doing. I mean, there's lots of people doing shows and stuff, and maybe a few baby pig photos or a few, other species. Probably cattle is probably the only thing I would say. Cattle photographer, videographers were kind of. I know a lot of those people were able to kind of do that full time. Like Morgan Meisenheimer was the first one I could ever really remember that seemed like she was just always booked, always busy, and all she was doing was running around with her camera and computer. And but in the show pig world, that really wasn't a thing that I could understand. And so it is scary if you are wanting to be that creative that wants to have the actual business. Can you make it happen? Can you not make it happen? Sure you can, but you better understand, if you're a business owner, you don't set your own hours like they say. You don't get to say, oh, I'm taking the holidays off. You don't. You're on every single day. People who want to say like, oh, I want to be a business owner because I want to work for myself and set my own hours. I think you could probably attest to this. That's not how it goes, not even a little bit. And you don't find peace as a business owner. I'll say that. There's different kinds of peace you find. Peace in that you are doing the thing, and that will bring you a lot of peace, or personally brings me a lot of peace and joy. But as far as do I get to turn my brain off? No, I don't get that. Even when I'm off, my brain is still on. That's just how I think business goes, and I think you have to be a bit that way at times to have a successful business, because you're the one-stop shop for everything. If anything breaks, or if there's an invoice that's incorrect, or someone has a complaint, so you have all these different hats that you have to do and still keep the art, which is very challenging to do. As you navigate business and try to understand your pricing and things like this, that's something you kind of have to decide for yourself. What is your worth? And it was really hard for me when I first started to identify as a photographer. When people ask you, well, what do? You do for a living, and you're in an airport somewhere, and then you say, oh, I'm a photographer, because you don't unload on them immediately. Oh, I'm a livestock photographer, and this is what I do. You just kind of, I'm a photographer, and they're like, oh, well, what do you do? What do you do for your job? I'm like, no, that's it. That's all I do is that. And they're like, oh my gosh. And then the conversation happens, and you explain to them you're shooting livestock, and they're like, wait, what? This is blowing their mind. They can't believe this. And look how cute these little pigs are. And like, oh my God, this is so crazy. And then they want to talk to you until you have to get on your flight. But it's still weird as a person to identify as like, what do you do? I'm a photographer. Like, that could be very weird for people to say that, because there always is that question. When you first start, people are like, yeah, but what do you really do? And that's going to happen for everybody. I mean, it's just how it goes. And so, you have to learn from a pricing standpoint, what is it going to take for me to survive? How many gigs, how many shoots, how many whatever, how consistent is this going to be? Am I able to price this at a price point in which is digestible for my clients or potential clients, and not a cent less? Because if you start pricing something cheap, that client, and I will tell you this, when you start with clients, here's a very good piece of advice. When you start with clients, the people you first start with, it's always going to be hard to go up on the price as you get better and as you get more skilled, unless those people are really there in your pocket and there for you and understand that's how things go, which most people want. They want the best deal. They don't understand why you're going up on them. So be careful a bit who you get as your first customers, understanding that sometimes they will not always be able to be your customer because you'll be able to get bigger customers, bigger in terms of they will have more work for you. They'll be able to accept a higher price that you're having to ask to pay your bills. And so just that's a little messy to navigate at times, and there's no way to do it but then just to do it. I tell the girls that work for me that are interested in doing photos or videos or any kind of entrepreneurial business, I tell them, don't be afraid to be told no, or oh, you're too high, or oh, maybe not now. Whatever. You're going to get rejection. That's just how it goes. People are going to say, oh, it's not worth it, or oh, it's too high. It's this being too high for some person doesn't mean you're too high for the next person. You're going to understand very quickly when you throw stuff out there and you're trying to catch, a client, if you will, you're going to understand pretty quickly if you're way too high or not. If everyone's saying yes, you're not high enough, or you're so incredibly talented in something that no one else can do, then they might say yes. But even still, I got to decide, is that money worth it for me as a business owner to hire you to come do this project or come do this skill set for me? If they're all saying yes, you probably should up your price a bit. Or if people are calling and booking, trying to book you, and you literally don't have enough time, enough days, then it's time to go up. For sure, it's time to go up. If you're way too high, I still say stay high, see what you can get. You may give some people, good customers, a bit better deal and kind of set your value a little bit higher. I'm sure all my clients are listening to this are like, what the heck? I feel like he did this to me. But no, that's my advice on the pricing. And that's something everyone else has to find out. Obviously I'm not going to broadcast my own pricing on a podcast right here, but if anyone's ever interested in stuff like that, I don't mind sharing some of that stuff. But like I said, you got to understand like what it is, what your bills are, how hard you're willing to work, and are you able to scale a bit? So, if you're able to hire some people that can help you with editing or anything in your business whatsoever, maybe you can take on more projects, and maybe that can change your pricing structure a bit, or maybe it makes your pricing structure more expensive. It's just something you have to work out yourself. Yeah. So that's kind of it for pricing on me. And that kind of goes for every sector of business you're in, I think, not just the photo video side of stuff, just any service business.
I know that was a loaded question, but I appreciate you sharing your perspective because I think pricing is such a sensitive topic, and I don't know that really needs to be, but it's hard. It's not a one size fits all, and maybe that's why it's hard. But I just remember having a conversation with you, and you were like, whatever you had said to me at that point was just like, you weren't afraid to talk about it. And so I guess I appreciated that and still have that as a memory several years later. Along those lines, though, of hiring people, managing all the things, how are you, I don't want to say quote unquote, doing it all? How are you working in the business, working on the business, hiring people for shows, traveling? Talk a little bit about your, I don't want to say management system, but like, how are you keeping the business running? Yeah, from a logistics standpoint.
Well, like I said earlier, there are no days off. There are even days off or not days off. Even if you're trying to project to the outside world that you are off, you are still not off. Your brain won't stop. If maybe that's me. And I do have a piece of advice for everybody, and I live by this. I think it's very true, and I think it's very interesting in today's society. A lot of people in America all say that they are dealing with anxiety. They have anxiety. And I would encourage everybody who thinks they have anxiety that wants to have a business or wants to be successful in life, if you'll replace the words anxiety with ambition, it'll fix all your problems immediately. I have ambition, so therefore I'm doing this. It's not my anxiety keeping me up at night. It's my ambition keeping me up at night. It's my ambition getting me up at 3 a.m. in the morning. That's what it is. And you need to look at it as ambition, and that will solve a lot of your problems. Now, I don't want to discredit people who do actually have medical problems or anything like that. But I think changing that and looking at it through just a little bit different lens in your own brain will really change your perspective on how you operate in the day to day. And I can tell you, people who would be around me who don't know me would say I'm a very high anxiety guy, and I disagree with them 100%. I have a lot of ambition. Things matter to me, matters, and that's why it shows in the things that I do. So that's definitely something to understand about like how you juggle things in your business. And for me, I have the girls that I have work for me are very good, and I depend on them very, very much. I've always, and you could talk to any one of them who's ever worked for me. It's a sink or swim situation where I'm going to teach you anything you want to know. And I'm going to show you how to do it. And then I'm going to tell you to go do it. And you may be broadcasting the San Antonio Market Bearer show to, 15,000 people at one time. And if you mess up out there and your camera looks bad and it's we've cut to your camera and you biff it. It's going out to everybody on YouTube that's watching it. It's going out to everybody on RFD TV that's watching it, and it's replayable coverage, and everyone's going to get to see that. And that's a lot of pressure for someone who's 19, maybe 19 years old or 20 years old or something. It doesn't matter. Everyone can handle it. You can handle the stress, you can handle that. So they learn to be very good very quick, because I do try to only hire people that things matter to them. I'm not trying to hire, I don't care if you're the world-renowned photographer. You're not interesting to me because of that. You're interesting to me as a business owner because I got the sense that you care about what it is that you're doing, no matter if you're rolling up an extension cord, or if you're filming something, or if you are, driving to work, whatever. You do it seriously, okay? You're like engaged when it's time to be engaged. And I don't want to say that I don't like to have a good time. Anyone who's been around me understands I like to have a good time, and with other people too, have lots of fun. There is time for fun and there's time for serious, for sure. But I've been able to hire people to work for me that when I have them to go do something, or I put them in charge, even if they're uncomfortable, they figure it out on their own, and they're able to do it, and they grow a lot around me. Have to grow a lot, um, or else they don't keep coming back. I guess if they want comfort, just comfort and easy going, and no expectations, then maybe they do an internship once and that's all they do, and they go home and they enjoy it, and I hope they do enjoy it and learn something from it. But those people are really hungry for more. They end up coming back a lot and working for me, and then I'm able to have um, just a good group of people around me. So I don't think that you can build a team out of I, of course. You got to be able to let go. And that was something that was very, very challenging for me. Let go of it has to be exactly right 100% of the time. Now, there needs to be some quality control, of course, on everything you do. And I'm a very, very big stickler on quality control and making sure things are done exact and they're done right. At some point, as a business owner, you got to understand nobody's going to do it exactly how you're going to do it except for you. And you can't do it all, or you're going to be at this level forever. If you ever want to get to this level or this level, you're going to have to trust people. You can't be distrusting. I am a very, still trying to work through it, but still a very distrusting person as a whole. There's no qualms about it. I mean, people who know me understand that, but you have to be able to trust these people and understand that if someone works for you and they're consistently able to go out there and do 80%, objectively 80% the job that you would do yourself on a particular project, you better cherish them and take care of them, because they don't have the experience you have. They don't have the ambition. This is not their business, by the way. They're working for you. Why would they care? The fact that they're doing a good job for you and continually doing a good job, you should do everything you can to retain them and be good to them and be good friends to them. So, it's important, in my opinion, not just to be a good business, paycheck or this or that. You need to be friends with them and develop a relationship with each one of the people that work with you. And every single person who's worked for me, we all have a different relationship. It's an actual friendship. It becomes an actual friendship over time, because nobody wants to work with someone they don't like, and I don't want to work with a bunch of girls I don't like. So it kind of naturally kind of comes together a bit. And so yeah, you have to really learn to. This is the biggest thing I've learned in business, is learning to trust other people to do things. And then if they mess up, it's going to be okay. There's nothing that someone can mess up so bad that you can't recover from. There really isn't. And you have to keep that in your mind and understand that, sometimes mess ups happen. So that's just how it goes.
I think that's a good perspective, especially since a lot of us are, I don't want to say us, or like, there's a lot of freelance people, right, that are individuals, but then go and do work with other people. So I do really appreciate that perspective on building a team and like having a good team mindset around a project. What do you think is something that people don't see that you are doing to make your work or your career successful behind the scenes that someone wouldn't know about?
Well, I don't really know how much people see or don't see, honestly. I don't do any of my own social media anymore, because I don't think being on social media is good for me personally, or anyone, honestly. I don't care to see what everyone's posting or whatever all the time. So I outsource that. One of the girls that works for me, she just manages that completely for me. I don't even touch it. I'll give her like broad brush strokes of, we need this, we need that, this is what we need to pivot to. And I go back to that trust thing. I give it to her and she takes care of it, and I don't do it like at all. Like, I don't even say post this photo. I'm just like, hey, here's the card. I'm going to dump it, and then you can have it and just do whatever you want to with it, like at shows or pig sales or whatever. I'm totally off of running my own social media, I'll say. And I don't try to get on my personal social media all that much. I mean, I will get on there and obviously watch, some reels or this or that or whatever, but you don't see me posting a bunch on my own personal social media. And that's a personal choice. I know other people can maybe enjoy social media differently than I do. I try not to. I'm just too busy, honestly, a lot of times to really be messing around on social media a bunch or being up to date. I'm like the last guy to know on so many different things, like so the last guy to know on so many different things, just because I don't always keep up with things like that. So that gives me a bit of ability to focus more on business stuff. And so from behind the scenes, it looks like maybe if there is a presence out there, well, there's regular posting and there's this and that. Well, that's not me. That goes back to the outsourcing. So that's something you don't see probably behind the scenes. I talk about it with people that I know well, but we do a lot of traveling, a lot of traveling. And I know people who kind of pay attention to what I do understand that I travel a lot. I don't think they really understand how much me and my team travel, members of me and my team travel. I won't give the numbers because it's scary to think of what I've spent last year. My CPA, she told me, wow, you must have this seems like a great job. You're just like traveling all the time. You're this, you're that. It's just great. I see you're always going, you're going to Colorado or you're going to California or Indiana or Texas or whatever. Oh, you're down in Texas for 2 months or 3 months out of the year, actually. And then you're always here and there. That must be great. And, because this is how it is. If you think traveling is fun, depending on how you do it. If you're doing it for work, have the correct expectations. Don't expect that when you're going to Colorado, you're not always going to the mountains. In fact, I never go to the mountains when I go to Colorado. Quite the opposite. And so lots and lots of travel. And she tells me, she said, this is the figure that you had last year in flights alone, not counting lodging. And I was like, it'll make you pass out, really. So lots of traveling, that people don't really understand or really, really see is that. So 3 months just for stock shows, 3 months out of the year, I practically live in Texas, in one city or the other. And then every weekend for about 10 to 12 weekends in the summer, we travel down to Texas for pig sales every single weekend, doing live streams and stuff, among going to 2 to 3 other states that week prior, shooting photos and videos while managing an online sales business and keeping all the hoops together. So people don't really see that. And I'm not saying that to be like, oh my God, how does he do it all? I'll say I do it all because I have a really good team around me and a very, very understanding wife too. Because, if you're gone 3 months out of the year, that's one thing, but then you count in all the photos and videos that you travel, and I'm not home a whole lot. And so having a really, really good support group at home, my family supports me. Obviously my wife supports me, and those things are all very important. Those are the things that you don't really see. And for those people who are wanting this kind of lifestyle, being on the road and traveling and just the entrepreneurial life or the creative life brings, just understand what that cost can be. And it is a cost, and you have to weigh it every day. And it's not something that you're going to do for 20 years, I promise you. Or you'll be single forever, that's for sure. But those are a lot of the kind of the things that people probably really don't see. I don't think people realize how much time it takes to sift through all the photos and all the videos and upload and all this stuff, and then also manage my social media, which I don't. The girl that works for me does, and then we have other firms that we run their social medias for them as well, all while trying to bid new projects, new potential state fairs or major stock shows and stuff. So there's a lot. Anyone who's ever tried to get a hold of me unsuccessfully, I'm sorry. Everything. I'm sorry. I know there's a lot of you, and I do apologize. I am doing kind of the best I can do right now, and look forward to growing my business even more, so that I can delegate and offload some more responsibilities to other people, where maybe I can, always be the guy hitting the nail correctly on the head and not chasing his tail.
Yes, I resonate, and I know there's probably lots of other people that do with how much work it takes, which I think that if you're in this industry, you kind of understand, but if you're not, there's such a gap. And it's just part of it, right? Like you can't expect anything. But even my husband doesn't realize how long it takes to edit stuff. And I'm like, I've been with you for 10 years. Like you'd think at some point, but no, if you're not doing it, it's different.
Yeah. Yeah, my favorite is these guys, and this is every photographer ever, is like you got in the vehicle and they're like, do you have the photos done yet? And you're like, I mean, I'm exaggerating. It's not exactly when you're in the photo, but there's times I'm like, I left and got on an airliner, and I don't get in until X time tonight. Why would you ask me if the photo's already done? Like it's like, and I've got to really, I don't want to, I'm not talking smack on my clients and any, but the ones that I work with are all very, very good and very understanding. But, there's been times, with people that you're just like, when is that physically possible? Just kind
Yeah.
of like,
It does take time. I mean, maybe there'll be a day where we don't have to do anything with AI, but that's not
yeah.
right now. So, um, Taylor, we've talked a lot about different things, but I think that was a great way to lead into our wrap-up questions.
Yeah.
I normally ask if anyone has a podcast or book recommendation, but you've mentioned YouTube way too much. Is there a good educator on YouTube that you would recommend? I mean, you can answer the question how I always ask if you want, but I didn't know if you're like, hey, this person on YouTube's awesome. Check them out.
Well, the stuff that I'm interested in now is not probably the same, or it's probably not the same stuff that really helps a creative get off the ground. I was really inspired early on, and they don't make as much, they're not making as much content in terms of learning content anymore. But some inspirations I had from YouTubers when I first got started would be like Peter McKinnon or Matty Hapoya. They're both very good filmmakers and photographers that I learned a lot. Now, that stuff doesn't necessarily apply because it's very dated. It was 2015 Lightroom or Photoshop or Adobe Premiere, which I don't even use anymore. Edit in something different. And so those are some inspirations. A couple people that I was inspired by. Honestly, I was inspired a lot by a vlogger. He's like was the biggest vlogger ever, but Casey Neistat. He doesn't teaching anything about editing, but you would watch his videos. I'd watch his videos and understand his pacing for it. Do like 4 years straight of daily vlogs or something crazy, like every single day, never missed.
Wow.
Has tens of millions of subscribers or whatever, but it was all very interesting to watch how he edited his vlogs. I mean, if you're doing a vlog in a day, even if it's a 5 minute vlog, like that's a lot of you got to be efficient, very efficient. And so I would watch how he would transition or how he would cut. And I learned things like if you're going to change scenes, you need some kind of establishing shot. That doesn't have to be a drone shot. It could literally just be an environmental shot. It can be anything that's not talking head or whatever. So I learned a lot from that, watching things like YouTubers like that and seeing how they edit and how they break things down or how they articulate things. Those things were always very impactful in my early growth and understanding. And then, now I watch all kinds of different YouTube videos about learning about 3D print and things like this, which I haven't got yet, but I'm holding off. I got a wedding ceremony to pay for, so I told my wife I was going to hold off on things like that. So and then I really enjoy firearms, so we have a membership over here at a range close to us, and we do lots of shooting and stuff. My little brother's obviously he's in the military too, and so we like to get together. One of my very best friends lives down the road. He's ex GWAT, and so I do a lot of I watch a lot of YouTube in terms of guns and just gun culture and stuff. So that stuff's always very interesting to me. Probably some of that stuff maybe bleeds over a little bit into the way I look at things if I'm going to sit down and edit or something. But as advice for somebody just getting into it and trying to learn Adobe or DaVinci Resolve or any of these other AI editing programs, I would just say try a bunch of different people and understand which YouTuber or whatever vibes with you or you vibe with or whatever and you like that. And then just go watch more and more of their videos. They probably got a playlist and you should watch the entire playlist. If this piques your interest, watch this until you learn it. And then something will also pique your interest in the same field, maybe slightly different, and just keep learning, and then practice. So learn, make, repeat. Okay. Learn how to do it, make it on your own, repeat it until you're great at it, and then start over and start over and start over. Help refine those situations or just refine your skills and stuff. I know some of the girls that work for me, they were like, ask me a question, say in DaVinci Resolve if they're editing and they're saying, oh, I don't remember how to this or what's the key command for that or whatever it is. And it kind of sometimes floors them a bit that I'm like, oh, it's on the top right. If you look here and drop down here, it's going to be there. And I'm like, they can tell I'm going down the road. They can hear the background noise or something. Like, I don't know how you do it. I'm like, it's too much YouTube, too much practice.
Well, that was a good little piece of advice, but that is my last question for you. What is one piece of advice that you would give to a younger creative, younger entrepreneur, whatever you want it to be, as they kind of continue to evolve and grow in their own business and skills?
Sure. So this one's easy and it's always the same for me. If you're a creative and you're trying to be in the creative space, whether that's photo or that's video or whatever it is, you need to learn who you are and what you're into. So I always give this advice for people who want to be a photographer, for example. And you have to kind of go back to the days of Instagram when it was photos and not videos. There's all these amazing photographers out there with all these different editing styles. And some people really like colors. Some people like I'm super not a color guy. Fun fact, I'm actually colorblind, so I don't do well with colors. And so if you see stuff that I've edited or on my own personal profiles or anything like that, it's all dark and moody, and I'm not pushing colors, I can tell you that. Obviously my colors are white, black, and gray, so I'm not really into color a lot. And that's something I learned, and that's something everyone needs to learn. Like, what is your style? What do you like? And you don't know until you get out there and see it. So I tell everyone, consume the content that you want to create. It doesn't have to be baby pig photos and you're consuming those or whatever, but the aesthetic that you're looking, and then understand, because you'll see things and I'll be like, oh, I love this. And you'll try it out for a while, and then you'll see somebody else that's similar, but maybe a little different in a certain way. You're like, oh, I like that. And you'll find like another person that's maybe even further out in a different area. And before you realize it, you're going to have blended all those things together and it forms your own style for you. And you have to have your own style, in my opinion, creatively to not have this imposter syndrome of, oh, I'm this or I'm that or whatever. Anyone can, bump the contrast and add a bit of saturation in a vignette and say, here's your photo. And those are fine. And honestly, that's a quick, easy way to do it, to make things look pretty good. That'll cover a lot of things very quickly. But if you want style in your videos, in your editing style, you need to watch videos that are edited in a way in which you like. Or if you like web design, that these layouts are, I love this, or these, even like you look at e-commerce, the different way things are laid out that way. Study those things and really understand and hone. And it takes time. Give yourself some time, but never stop doing it. Anytime you get a free minute to do it, don't be scrolling reels or TikToks or whatever. Search for what it is that you want, and it'll become a bit of entertainment to you. And watch YouTube videos on it. So that's the advice. Learn your style, and it's going to take some time. Put effort into learning your style. Copy everybody until you aren't copying anybody but yourself.
I think that's such a good piece of advice, knowing that there's people think that there's like an industry is very saturated and there's so many, I don't want to say livestock photographers or graphic, whatever it might be. But I don't think there is when you have your own style and you do your own thing. And so it might take you a while to get there, like you just said. But yeah, I think that's a great perspective to kind of weed your mindset and figure out how to stand out on your own.
There's room in this industry, whatever sections of the industries that we look at, there's room in there for everybody. And like we said, if you have your own creative style, your own style of how you do things, and you really like it, other people are going to like it too. You're not alone. People are going to like what you do. And so there's totally people who are like, I really love what this person's doing. I really love the aesthetic, or I love the way they go about it. Maybe they don't even know why, but they just know that they like it. And so I don't want anyone to ever think like, well, oh, there's so many photographers or there's videographers, or oh, I could never amount to or stack up to it or whatever. That's BS. Just go get out there and try. It's not as hard as you think. It's way easier to start a business than you think. It just is very scary, and you have to take it very serious. But don't be afraid to start your business. Don't be afraid to fail. Fail, because every fail you should fail forward. It's very easy to fail forward, and you should do it every time. And you should fail forward multiple times a year.
That is a great way to wrap this up. Taylor, where can people find you, contact you, kind of see what you've got going on?
Okay, sure. So on social media, it's taylor.a.fort. That's all the platforms, I think. And then obviously you can, one of my two websites, so you can go to taylorfort.com. That's where you're going to see all the live streams and stuff. Or also taylorfortsales.com. That's our sales platform where we auction these animals and do online bidding and all kinds of stuff there. So any of those places are a great place to try to get a hold of me or somebody on our team.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for the time and all your knowledge and wisdom. And I feel like if there was one takeaway, it was very clear to watch YouTube. That's the answer to all the problems in the world.
Yeah, watch YouTube and replace anxiety with ambition. You've got it pretty well whipped.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Taylor. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Enjoyed it.